Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Motivational speaker, the comeback coach, and goal crusher Joe Rivera brings you inspiring leaders, incredible stories, and valuable lessons on how you can change, grow, and reforge your life. Now, here's your host, Joe Rivera.
What's up? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Reforge Your Life Show. I'm your host, Joe Rivera, and here at the Reforge Your Life Show, we like to show you that the comeback is more than possible. And today, man, my guest got a comeback, and y'all are gonna love it, man. I consider him a friend. He's a high-performance coach. He's a stroke survivor. He's a podcaster, and he's living his best life. Pete Kane, welcome to the show, brother.
I'm pumped. I've been looking forward to this for a month. Now I get to experience your show, and I feel honored to be on it.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate that. I've been looking forward to it also since we got it on the schedule. I'm glad we were able to make the schedules align for this. And Pete, man, I've heard your story, but there's no way that I can or anybody else can tell it the way you can. So I'd love for you to share with the audience your story, your strength and hope, and let them know a little bit more about Pete Kane, man.
Yeah, I feel blessed to be here today for number one. And I'll take you back 3 years, a little over 3 years. I was doing a little video, finishing up a project. My wife at the time was out of town, and I knew my grandkids were busy, so I had all day to work. And I was doing my last project, which was video. It was 8:30 at night, and my eyes started to burn. I was going, whoa, this is weird. And then immediately my left side started to go. Now, instead of calling 911, I started calling my wife, or ex-wife now, but I tried to call her, and she goes, hey, I'm out with my mom. I'll call you later. Hung up. I called what I thought was my son-in-law because I knew where they were. And I called my brother up in Rock Hill, and he hung up because I wasn't, the verbiage, he thought I was drunk or he thought that something was going on. And so I'm losing everything. I know what's happening. I'm losing my whole left side. And my phone, fortunately, was on my desk, and I'm hitting the number again. And before he could hang up, I got the word stroke out. And so his wife's a nurse, so he was able to call 911. I lost you there. There we go. So they called 911, and that time everything had dropped, my left side, and I lost valuable time. I wake up in the hospital having survived, and then they told me what had gone on, and then that was the start of a journey to get my whole left side. It still is. I go to PT. So being that people weren't understanding me kind of confused the time, because I probably lost 15 minutes, 20 minutes. So finally I wake up the next day and I'm in the hospital, and that was the start of my journey back. That was 49 days, 10 in the hospital and 39 in a rehab. And it gave me a chance to think. I grew up dyslexic and ADD, so I was always chasing like the next thing. I mean, I was motivated, but I would always do one more thing. I didn't really have the processing, but 49 days thinking about my life, because basically if I fast forward a couple weeks when I'm at Shepherd, which is a rehab place, my nurse, it was the start of the Ukraine war. She was Ukrainian. We had a good rapport. She goes, Pete, can I share something personal with you? I said, yeah, I'm not going anywhere. Yes, please. She goes, the stroke you had, most people don't survive. And if they do, they're a lot worse. And here I am, half my side's not working. I'm not eating. Can't do anything by myself. And I'm going, what? You mean people are totally paralyzed? She goes, oh, yeah. So she said, a little angel was looking after you. And I said, man, that's powerful, because it gave me a second chance. And it gave me a perspective that we're not guaranteed tomorrow. That I live my life every single day like it's my last. Because one day I'm going to be right. But until then, I'm going to live it with purpose. And, so a lot of things happened. I went through a divorce. I had to move out because I gave my wife everything. And I just I said, look, I'm going to go about it with all the gusto that I can. So I moved into a senior, which was 55 and older, because I had to have a walk-in shower, and I'm in a college town, so they just don't have them. So I went into a place thinking, okay, 55 and older. The average age was 80. And I was able to see the kind of like the fourth quarter of life, which was a good perspective. If you don't take care of yourself, it shows. And I could see people that didn't take care of themselves, didn't live their life with purpose. So it gave me a perspective as I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to live my life. I know I have a second chance. Now I'm going to go for it. So my motto was go big or go home. And both of them happened. So yeah, it just gives you what Brendan calls it, mortality motivation. I definitely have that.
Sure do, Pete. And man, I'm thankful that you're here. Thankful that
me too.
I'm thankful that you survived this. I'm thankful that we've been able to build a relationship, a friendship, and I'm thankful for having you in my life. Because you are a survivor.
Me too. I connected with your story, because it was different paths, but we really have a second chance. And God gave us a second chance, so it's up to us to make the most of it.
Yeah, man. I want to definitely dive into, God, the second chance, all that amazing stuff that comes with a comeback. But I'm curious because there's a lot to unpack here, right? What were you doing in life before the stroke? What were you doing for work? I know you mentioned that you were married, you had to get divorced, but what was your professional life like prior to the stroke?
Good question. So I had a small digital marketing agency. So I had 4 part-time people. And so I was always trying to keep up because once you got your strategy down, Google would change the algorithm and it would just, it was like, I tell people now, it probably gave me a stroke, but here's what I do know, talking to professionals, because I had two hernia surgeries after my stroke. I was around health professionals and 2 people, not even knowing, said, "Did you have COVID?" And I said, "Yes." "Did you get the shot?" I said, "Yes." "We've seen a spike in strokes." So 2 independent people said that. So I don't know why I got the vaccine. I didn't need to. I worked by myself. I worked in a house. But I for some reason, I thought about grandkids. And I thought, well, I better get it. But, if I had to do it over again, I probably wouldn't. But I was in a high stress, very competitive online world. And so I'm a workaholic. I get up real early. I work hard. Now with high performance, I set manageable goals, not manageable. I set goals, deadlines. So I feel like when I finish in the evening, I've done everything I can do. I don't work with the same mindset. I know what I'm striving to accomplish, and it's given me boundaries. And I think boundaries has really helped me as a workaholic manage it better.
Yeah, no, boundaries is extremely important when it comes to life in general, right? Your professional life, your personal life, you got to create boundaries for not just the people that are around you in your life, but also creating those boundaries for yourself is important. So let's fast forward after the stroke now. As far as your digital marketing business and your whole life goes, upside down for a moment, right? Because going through a stroke, health crisis, not feeling your left side. These are challenges you're going through in that moment. Take us to right after the stroke. You're in rehab. What's going through your mind at that moment?
Good question. I'll tell you exactly, because I was a runner and I played golf 5 days a week. After work, I think about playing golf. I love strategy. I love golf. I love running. That was my sanctuary, was running. And both of them were taken away. I did try one-handed golf about a year after my stroke. I just couldn't get into it. But my partner said to me, because he had been in a car accident and had a brain injury, he said, Pete, respect your brain injury with your stroke. And I didn't. I'm pretty convincing, and I had convinced the doctors to give me Adderall again, even though at Shepherd they would not touch it because they said you can't mess with the brain with a drug like that. But I convinced people to get back on it, and I went back to work. I mean, I was a workaholic. I went back, and I was on a call with my largest client, and literally he gives me an intro, and he's complimenting me, giving me all these. Well, my emotional part of my brain was compromised. I could not speak. I lost my voice. I basically emotionally just my body shut down, and I was going full gun. And I told my partner, who still is, he goes, Pete, back off. I'll take your clients. You just back off and rest. And I proceeded to say, okay, I got to get off the drug. And it was a Saturday morning. I usually take it at 5 a.m. First thing I do. First thing I think about is putting that drug in my system. I mean, but I had a brain injury, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to not take my drug. And at 8:30 that morning, it'd been 5, that's 3.5 hours. I panicked. And I said, I got to get this work done to give to my partner to be able to take my clients. And I panicked, and I took that drug, and my whole world crashed. I was talking to my mom, and I'm trying to give her a framing of it. It didn't work. And it was just, everything crashed. I texted my brother and I said, hey, look, this isn't working. I'm trying to get off of Adderall. I jumped on Adderall for the last time. Call mom and just tell her I'm okay. I just can't talk. So I basically, that was February 17th. It was almost a year after. I haven't had one pill. I had taken drugs my whole life, on and off. I'd try to get off. I would crash because I couldn't manage what I thought without the drug. And so I would go into a deep depression trying to manage without the drug. I was addicted. And so that was kind of a real opener for me. My next week going to PT, my brain was like mush. They would say, hey, Joe, well, they would say Pete, but they say, hey, do this. I'd say, what'd you say? My brain couldn't comprehend anything for like weeks because I had screwed up my brain. I had taken Adderall on top of a brain injury, and it had messed with me. Well, fast forward about 4 or 5 months, I gave up alcohol. I gave up everything that I could to repair my brain. I ended up going back to Shepherd for a test. They were doing a brain injury test, and they'd asked me if I'd participate. So I went to that test, and I being dyslexic, I never got an A in my entire life. I mean, I got more F's than I got C's. So I'm taking this test. It's a 20-minute cognitive test. And we finished the test, and he looks at me kind of weird. He goes, and I'm saying, he goes, have you ever taken this test before? I said, no, why you ask? He said, you didn't miss a question. I went, what? He goes, I've been doing these tests for a while. I've never had anybody get every answer right. And what happened, mindset-wise, I had repaired my brain. Whew, hold on just a second. Okay, I need you to throw a one-liner or something. Anyway, so I repaired my brain. And in my mind, I had gotten my first A in life. So without drugs, I had focused for 25 minutes. He said, take a breath. It always helps. So really, I had mastered a discipline of focus without drugs. So you give me a second to any other question you can ask. It'll give me a chance to get that body back.
Take your time, man.
No, I'm good. I mean, so that journey was kind of an affirmation or a confirmation that I didn't need drugs.
Yeah.
To focus.
And it's amazing how, you know, when you're on the drugs, you know, I know from experience, you know, that when you're on those drugs, you think that the drugs are helping you perform at the level that you're performing.
Exactly.
Because your brain is clouded and there's no judgment there on clarity, right? There's no real clarity behind it, and knowing that the power is within you. It's not the drugs. The drugs never have the power. It's always the power within the person that's able to create their own destiny. And it's amazing how, you know, you went your whole life, you know, on drugs and, you know, not even getting A's, not passing anything. And then, you know, you come off the drugs, you give yourself time to clear your mind, and then you start performing at a higher level and getting, you know, passing with flying colors on this test. And God is good. So let me ask you this, though.
Mm-hmm.
Let's rewind for 1 second. As you're going through, you know, this turmoil that you're going through in your life, right? The health disaster, the divorce. What story are you telling yourself in that moment before you come off the drugs and you start, you know, realizing that you perform without them? But what story are you telling to yourself? Because I believe that the story that we tell ourselves shapes our destiny, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what story were you telling yourself before you came off the drugs, right when you realized, shit, I can't move my left side, my wife's leaving me? You know, what story was going through your mind at that time? What was that belief system like?
I think growing up dyslexic, I always felt I was the underdog, but it was the underdog that hadn't performed, because technology allowed me I use Alexa and Siri like 6 or 7 times during the day to spell words. I was never a writer because every single day after email came out that I hit the send button, there was shame because people would say, dang, do you know how to spell? Because my spelling was jacked up. I couldn't spell probably in a sentence half the words. And people would say, back before technology came out, they go, well, look it up in the dictionary. If you don't even know the first letter, you can't find it in the dictionary. And it's slow. So technology allowed me to start moving faster. I started journaling back after my stroke, and it gave me clarity. And then when I'd hit a word that I didn't understand or know how to spell, mainly spell, I was able to shout it out and it would tell me. So it flowed better. So I lived in shame my whole life, failing English in high school. That was my primary language. Failing 2 attempts at college, just flunked, just couldn't do it. And so I was used to failure, but I didn't see success until I slowed down. And people think I'm crazy. They'll say, come up in conversation about the way I'm walking and stuff like that. I'm in a wheelchair right now. You would never know it. And I keep my hand down. But if I have to lift it up, this is as high as I can get it 3 years later. So you wouldn't know it if you looked at it. People don't even have any idea. But if it comes up to go, oh, I'm sorry. I'm saying, well, don't be sorry. It was a blessing because it slowed me down. Now, would I like to play golf again? Yeah, absolutely. It's Masters weekend. I geek out on that stuff. Would I like to run? Eventually, I will. But journaling is my running, and podcasting is my golf. So I get a chance to do 2 things I never did before the stroke, and it fills me up. I mean, like every podcast I do, I get pumped because I learn, and I'm talking, not writing. But I'm a good writer now because it just has improved my ability to think better. I'm more clear than I've ever been in my life. My planner is like geeky. It would just probably freak people out to how precise I am, but it honors me to do that. It allows me to get the most out of every day.
And that is awesome. And I'm curious because you went from shame and shaming yourself and failing, and what shifted that paradigm, and what do you do now?
That's an awesome question.
Yeah, and what do you do now to stay focused? Because there's people out there who struggle with ADHD. There's people who think they need to be on medication their whole life. I struggled with ADHD when I was younger also, but I found ways to be able to focus and stay laser sharp when it's important, without drugs, without Adderall, without anything that's mind altering, and utilizing my habits of writing things down, keeping a calendar in place. What's helped you along the way overcome that and shift the
That's a great
paradigm?
question. There's a couple things. One, I have 2 people that work on my team in the Philippines. So I only do what I love to do. So I've got away from details, which is my thing. And the other thing that happened was I don't give a shit what anybody thinks. I have where I lived in fear, now I don't care. So I'm more assertive in things, like just anything. Like I just don't have the normal fear that we all have because one, I have a second chance. Two, I really don't care what anybody thinks. So I'll just say things. Now, sometimes it comes all jacked up, but I'm more open. I'm more transparent. I'm more real. I'm more assertive in how I live my life because I got a second chance. And where before I was very protective of living, because I mean, ADD is, it's tough, but it's a superpower. I have incredible focus. Dyslexia, I can't spell worth a lick. And you can't know somebody's dyslexic. It's not like I have a D on my head, but when you see me walk, you know something's not right. People go, people don't always ask, but I wear 2-color shoes for one reason, for people to talk to me. Because when I had a cane and I had a brace and I'm trying to get back, I could see people were reluctant to talk to me. It's kind of like they don't know what to say. And so I just would wear 2 different color shoes because they'd say, hey, they would just have conversation and I'd be able to talk with them. And I just want to enjoy, share that, as crazy as it is, because they'll see my hand or something and they'll go, hey, what happened? And I'll say the stroke. And I haven't anybody said, and they all say, oh, I'm sorry. And I said, well, it's just a matter of perspective. I'm not sorry because it's a blessing. I now can do whatever I want to do, have almost no fear, really. And when I was at Shepherd, the first thing they do is schedule with a neuro doctor. And so you're wheeling into this doctor's office and she says, she's checking in because you've lost your left side. You're learning to eat. You're learning to talk. You're learning to walk, all these things. And it really messes up your whole body. My plumbing, plumbing affects the whole body. Yeah. Half a body really affects the other half too. But anyway, so she asked me, I'm wheeling in, she goes, and she's kind of like, this is the moment of truth for them to check in with you. She says, well, how are you doing? And I said, I'm doing great. And she leaned in me and she goes, no. How are you really doing? And I said, if you knew my history, you know why I'm saying I'm doing great. This is just a challenge. It's to live 50 years in fear and shame, and how you're talking, losing your left side. Yeah, I'd love to have that left side back, but it's just a challenge. So I said, my life, if you knew it, you would understand why I said that. I'm just going to work my ass off and get that side working eventually, but it's not that big of a deal if the perspective of the life that I've lived is now, it's just another challenge.
I love that, man. There's a couple of things that I want the audience to really pick up on there, because I believe that every high performer out there, people who are ultra successful, stop giving a fuck what other people think. They don't worry about what somebody else, thinks about them. That's going to change their narrative to make them move forward and move the needle in their life. And it's so important to have that, because it's so easy for people to get caught up in, and what does this person think? And then the imposter syndrome kicks in and the comparisons kick in. And man, that shit will just destroy you if you allow it to.
Absolutely.
And, you know what I mean? So to be aware of that is powerful and shows strength in your character, Pete. And, it's no wonder why you're successful. It's obvious. And then something else that you mentioned that's so important is looking at your situation not as, oh, fuck me, I can't move my left side. I can't play golf anymore. I can't, you're not on, you didn't get on your pity pot. You didn't become a victim of your circumstances and conditions. You realize that you're not a victim of your circumstances and conditions, and you create your own destiny. And you said, man, this is a challenge. I'm going to welcome this challenge with open arms like a code of honor and realize that this challenge isn't going to stop me. It's going to help catapult me into my future. And I think it's important for the audience to realize that we're going to come up with challenges in life.
Mm-hmm.
Life's not going to be a straight line to success, y'all.
Yep.
It's going to get fucked up in between there. There's going to be bumps in the road. How you navigate through those challenges and those bumps in the road is where the success happens. And Pete's a perfect example of how you could allow your challenge to move the needle in your life to go forward rather than backwards. Mm-hmm. Pete, I'm curious because you overcame shame, you overcame, not being able to spell. You've overcome ADD, overcome this stroke, and there's a lot of a mindset shift that happened, right? To go from shame to now, you know what? This is just a challenge that I'm going to overcome and utilize it to catapult me into my future. What are some of the core values that you uncovered along your journey that helped you be able to dig deep? Because that's what core values do. They help us dig deep to overcome these challenges. So what were the core values that you uncovered along your journey here?
That's a great question. I'll answer that in just a second with this. About a year ago, I was listening to a podcast, Ed Milet and Brendon Burchard, and he mentioned Growth Day. And I went, dang, what's that? And I had seen him 10 years ago. I had a friend, I was on the West Coast, and I was doing a project with her. And she goes, hey, I've got an extra ticket up in, we were in LA at the time. She goes, would you want to go see this? It's a weekend event. And I said, yeah, I'm on the West Coast, yeah. And I think it was Experts Academy, I believe. And I saw this guy, Brendon Burchard, speak, and I was like, oh my gosh, because I almost bought a Tony Robbins franchise way back when with a friend of mine. And so I was always into personal development. But he mentioned Growth Day, and I said, dang, I searched it, I got it. And I started a year ago doing personal development daily. And it helped really to shape my value system. I mean, I'm as clear as a bell. I'm transparent. I've always been honest to my fault. I don't know if that's a fault, but I've gotten fired 5 times in jobs. I've quit 5 times. I'm not really employable because I have kind of a mindset that if they're not doing it right, I'm going to call them out. So sometimes that gets you fired. But so I start on this journey with personal development and Growth Day, and I have not missed one daily fire in almost a year. So I have a daily dose of growth. And I think that led me to hire a coach. That led me to get my coaching certification. That led me to meeting you. And my mindset is of a high performance coach. So I have clarity, I have energy, I have courage, I have productivity, I have influence that I have developed by being in an industry that I love coaching. I love helping people make that transformation, but it probably wouldn't have happened if I didn't listen to that podcast and hear Growth Day, because I kept going up the ladder. I bought the $500, which is a yearly thing. And I just kept I looked at the group coaching. That wasn't for me. So I hired one. I went through 2 there. And then I met a person in certification who was a high performance coach, but he was getting his PhD in human behavior. And I asked him to be my coach without any money. I started over, but I had credit. I had good credit. So I had $65,000 worth of credit. Well, I spent 150 building back my life. So I went over because I fired 3 of my bookkeepers because they couldn't give me an accurate figure. They go, well, you need to do this. Well, my stroke, I lost all my passwords because I didn't remember my master password to LastPass. So I didn't have any of that. And they kept saying, well, you got to get me in. I said, I don't know how to get in. You got to figure it out. But they wouldn't figure it out. And then I'd say, fire them. And I'd get somebody else. I say, I need results. And you give me results, you got a job for life. But none of them could do it. So I guess what I'm saying is I commit to daily personal development, helps shift those values. I'm so clear on my values that I really live by them, and I lean into growth. And I think we both share. You went to Growth Day, that Austin event, which I'm now listening to it through the app. I mean, I can see, man, being in person, that's got to be crazy good.
Yeah, it's phenomenal to be involved in community, to be involved in, masterminds, where you could be able to be around like-minded individuals.
Yep.
So important.
Yep.
I invest in myself a boatload. I mean, I'm my biggest asset. I'm a big believer in that. My investment dollars, going to the stock market, real estate, but man, it's really investing in myself heavily. I really believe in that. So I'm glad that you shared that because growth is so important. And it's something that we never stop doing, man. We stop. You might stop going to school, but you never stop learning. Learning is a lifelong experience. And it's funny that you mentioned, you're unemployable. And I listen, man, I am too, man. And I think every entrepreneur that I know feels the same way. At least the highly successful ones, because it's why we do what we do. We don't want to work for somebody else because we want to create our own destiny. Yep. And it's important for people that are, out there looking to grow their business and be entrepreneurs. Go out there and do it, man. Take that risk because there's nothing more satisfying than being able to create your own destiny and say, and fuck it, I did it my way, Yep. So, some rules are meant to be broken, And because if you're going to be successful in entrepreneurship, get ready to break some rules because we're not. I had this when I was going through the 49 days of thinking. I was counting all the times I was fired, and I go, "Why was I fired?" And this one buddy of mine, I was unemployed at the time, and I always call people. So I'm calling these people, and I'm saying, "Hey, look, I'm looking." I didn't have really much success with resumes. So I call him and the guy goes, he used to work for me. He goes, well, I got a job in recycle. Would you be interested in that? I said, I don't recycle, but I can learn. So he hires me. Well, the market tanked because China stopped taking our cardboard. Right. So he goes, the market just evaporated overnight. So he goes, hey, look, do you want a job in trash? I said, well, I certainly know how to create trash. So I said, yeah, what the heck? So I start on this trash and everything's contracts. Right.
I'm cold calling And people go, yeah, I'm interested in looking. And then they look at their contract and it's a 3-year contract and they go, I can't do anything. So anyway, he brings me into the office and he goes, hey, look, we're going to put you on a 90-day probation. I said, everything's contracts. And he goes, would you sign this? It's a 90-day performance plan. I said, I said, F this. And I walked out. I said, you can't get any business in this business walking around cold calling when people have contracts. Yeah. But I just told him he was a friend. And we haven't talked since. but he was going to put me on a 90-day performance plan. Like, really? So I told him F it and walked out and just went about life.
Oh, man, that's hilarious. Pete, so the life of an entrepreneur, right? How it starts. It always a lot of people start where they're like, fuck this job, I'm not doing it anymore, and I'm gonna go do something on my own. Pete, how important though, through this journey that you had, through the failures, through the heartache, through the pain, divorce, losing your left side, when you shifted that paradigm and you said, I'm not going to give up, I'm going to keep moving forward, how much of a factor did faith play into it?
Everything. I went from fear to faith, and my faith grew. I mean, I was like a casual, I was in men's groups. I went to church, all that, but I did it like plan B. I would always plan B, but my faith became plan A. And now it's 1,000% better. If somebody asks me about my faith, I will share it. I don't go out there. I'm not on the corner with multicolored hair saying, if you don't repent, you're going to hell. Right. I don't do that, but I engage in conversation. I share my story. I share my faith. I share what is part of me. So it went from plan B to plan A.
Love that.
Really quickly, because I realized that God gave me a second chance, and I'm going to give him my time and my focus.
Isn't it amazing the magic that happens when you let go and you let God first? It's just so incredible. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So Pete, man, I'd love for you to tell the audience what you're doing now, what you have going on, and where they could find you.
Yeah. So, I'm having the time of my life. So I high performance coach like you do. So if I got PeteKane.me, I invite always people on for my podcast just to get to know them. I've been burned by sharks in my life. They come and they grab stuff and they leave. Bad partners. I've had so many failures in those. So I can judge by a person. And I think that's why we connected. I could see your heart. I understand your story. You were on my podcast. I got to know you. I get to know people on the podcast, but I give away a masterclass. So if people go to PeteKane.me/masterclass, it's my way of giving to them. Because if you understand the world that we live in with AI, with the entrepreneurial revolution, the digital revolution, the AI revolution, the mobile revolution, the personal development revolution, this is the best time to be alive. By far, nothing close. So I want to help people grow. I want to help people grow their business, and we give away the masterclass so people can get access. Because if you don't have mentors like we do in our business, because Growth Day is a wonderful place for mentors and the best, then you're going to struggle. And if you want to struggle, if that's your choice, it's your choice. But you don't have to be. Right. If you come on my podcast, I don't give it to everybody. I do it invitation only, but you asked me. The masterclass is the best thing I could give them, of which number 5 is Growth Day. So that's just part of who I am. I created this ecosystem with my partner, and we want to make the biggest impact on the world as we possibly can, because both of us have been through brain injuries and have a second chance.
Of it. You're a miracle, and you're continuing to do God's work, and man, it's amazing. All that's going to be in the show notes, y'all. Make sure you check out Pete's masterclass. He's incredible at what he does. Pete, a couple of questions that I ask all my guests.
Mm-hmm.
The first, what is the word purpose?
You know, I love that, because I used to think I have to have this grandiose purpose, and I put it up like my life purpose. My purpose is to show up every conversation, every time, being present and bringing me to people so I can make a difference in every conversation I have with people. So my purpose now is to live present. I have 5 grandkids, soon to be 6. I go out on a date with each one of them, the older ones, the 3 older ones, once a month, and we do something fun. You know, they pick it. So I want to be purposely living every moment of every day, depending on how the day lays out. I don't take for granted any conversations, any encounters. It's just, I love life, and I live life every day like it's going to be my last. One of these days I'm going to be right. But until then, I'm going to have fun.
Yeah.
I'd say be bold, make an impact, and have fun is how I leave most of my podcasts. I mean, most of my trainings.
Love it. Live purposely every single day is so important. Stay present and live in the day, because, you know, we're not promised tomorrow.
Yep.
So it's important to live in the moment and have that gratitude for having the moment that you have with your loved ones and people around you. So important. Don't ever lose. Don't ever lose that. You got to be grateful for what you have today. That's why it's important to be the best version of yourself every day.
Yes, totally.
Pete, when you hear the word reforge, what comes to mind?
I think second chance, and we get stronger with every tragedy or thing we go through in life. And I lean into being uncomfortable. I've done some weird things for 30 days just to prove I could do it. And each time it makes me stronger. So I'm reforging my life. I mean, I'm 67 and all my friends are retiring. I mean, how many times can you play golf? I mean, you know, I just can't fathom that kind of life. Although I love golf, but reforging your life, I think, is that reset. So it kind of like I get a chance to reset, and the life I'm going to lead and that I'm leading every day is a new life, and it's, I think, reforge. I love that word. When you said that on my podcast, I think I probably said reset, you know, in my mind. I never thought of that word until you had shared that with me. But I think it just means reset and lean into being uncomfortable because you grow. I had a guest that said PTSD, which is, you know, we know what that means, but he used the word G instead of D, growth. He grew up at age 5 in a concentration camp in Russia, and it helped him to grow. And he's now, if you see what this guy's accomplished, it's like blow your mind. But he chose to grow through his tragedy. So I think if we reforge and learn to lean into being uncomfortable, there's not a statue in this whole United States that said, hey, that's a guy that lived a comfortable life.
Yeah.
He never took chances. She never took chances. She just led a comfortable life. No, I think you have to be uncomfortable to grow.
Yeah, man. Gotta be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes,
And
totally.
you just hit it on the button also with something else. The power of choice, man, is such a blessing that we have. You get to choose the life that you want to live.
Yep.
And you get to choose what you're gonna create in your life. And that's such a blessing.
It is.
It really is. And man, you hit it on the button with the reset. Perfect analogy for Reforge. Second chance, man. Pete, what before we run, what's one thing that the audience doesn't know about Pete Kane that you enjoy doing for fun?
Say that again.
Well, what's one thing the audience does not know about you that you enjoy doing for fun?
Oh, good question. This happened never. I love talking to people. I think we said something like, I get up at 3:30 in the morning, so I go full throttle till about 3, so for 12 hours. Then as I'm kind of like starting to not fade, but starting to lose my energy level, I get on the phone and I call people. And it just really energizes me for that last part of the day. And I love it because I think we lose our human connection through emailing, being busy, and texting. And we're born to have relationships. We're born to have that emotional connection. And the more we can lean into taking the time to talk to people, I think it just fills your heart.
And to that, man, people provide energy for each other. You know, we get energy off of other people that we connect with. That's why it's important to surround yourself with people who inspire you. And you also mentioned something else that's really important, and I want the audience to pick up on it. Your cell phones, the texting, the emails could be such a distraction.
Yes.
And your distraction could destroy your destiny if you allow it to.
Totally, 1000%. I gave up TV and social media after my stroke. It was the best thing I ever did.
Yeah.
Because it kept me centered on people.
I don't even have a TV in my room. And I've started implementing where I go a whole day on Sunday without my cell phone. It helps me practice discipline. It helps me stay present with the family. And it's so important for the mind, man, to remove those electronics at times.
Totally.
So, Pete, man, thanks for coming through, man. I knew that this was going to be awesome, but as usual, man, you exceeded the expectations, and I'm so grateful for you coming through on the show today.
Well, I thank you. I knew it was going to be good because we think alike. High performance gives us that mindset of that connection to that higher level of ourself. And yes, I mean, I'm so energized, I probably could walk through a brick wall right now. So thank you, Joe. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Thank you again for coming through. And for all the listeners and viewers out there, thank y'all for checking out the show. And don't forget, LFSS, like, follow, subscribe, and most importantly, share the episode, because there's somebody out there today that's not watching, that's not listening, and they're looking to reforge their life. They're looking to reforge their business, their health, their finances. They're looking to make that change in their life, and they don't have the tools. They don't even know where to start. And watching this episode or one of the past episodes can help them take their life to the next level. So please don't forget to share. Stay productive, stay profitable, and stay blessed, y'all.
You've been listening to Reforge Your Life with your host, Joe Rivera. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. To learn more about Joe Rivera and how he can help you or your organization reforge your life and regain your place at the top, head on over to withjoerivera.com and follow Joe on all social platforms. The Reforge Your Life podcast was produced by Thrive Loud Productions. Thanks for listening.